Good morning, friends. How are you doing this fabulous morning? It is a rainy day here in Dallas, Texas. Um, we had a lot of wind and everything moving yesterday, and the rain started, and it's been raining. It rained really heavily last night, a little bit early this morning, and now it's just kind of overcast and quiet, and that's okay. But I hope wherever you are this morning that you're doing great. Grab a mug, pull up a chair. We're going to catch up and chat. If this is your first time to catch me here on this live broadcast, whether you're watching me on YouTube or on Facebook, welcome. It's good to have you here. My name is Ronnie Harden. By trade, I am an editor, I'm a writer, I'm a writing coach. I work with budding authors um, to help share their stories, craft their stories, and share them with the world in whatever form that you want to share them in. And each week I come live to just encourage you, see how your week was, and work on our writing goals together. I'm working on my own book. I'm also working on a book for a client right now. In fact, we have a deadline for tomorrow. Um, I've got another book in the chute that I've got to catch up with the client, confirm with her, get the ball rolling on that. And I've got a couple of other clients to follow up with on their books. So lots of stories being told, and I'm so excited. It's always fun to help authors see their book in their own hands, right? So new books that are coming out, so many new books. As you know, I love to share new book information as I get it. I'll also be featuring, you'll see in my stories and on my profile, you'll be seeing me share posts of the new American Library Association winners for this year of the best in children's literature, in YA literature. Congratulations to all the winners. I'm saluting you with my featured mug of the day. So if you have followed me here for a while, you know that I'm writing a book about my own story through my coffee cup collection. I have over 185 mugs from around the world. And so I've got a story behind each mug. And when I really thought about it, go to my cabinet, pull out a mug. So this one is a featured mug by the artist Jackson Pollock. I don't remember the title of this piece, but on crazy days, when I just don't know how I'm feeling, I pull this mug down because it just kind of represents what's going on the inside, right? And I'm sure as Jackson Pollock was making this painting, he was feeling some of those same things as well. And he expressed that in art. Now this is hanging in a museum somewhere. Well, it's great to have you here. How was your week? How are things? How was your weekend? We came out of the frozen tundra here down in Texas, got a little warmer weather, and now we have rain. And so, as we move into the spring season pretty soon, we're getting a lot of this. I'm grateful for the rain, love having the rain, because here in Dallas, Texas, it can get pretty hot during the summer, and that's when we miss the rain. So good to see you. Good morning, Bonnie. Good to see you. Yes, if you are watching live, please feel free to pop in and say good morning. It's always good to see you. So, good morning from Pennsylvania. Bonnie, how is the weather up there? I think you all got a cold blast that we had. It just kind of moved its way up the country. So, I hope you're staying warm and I hope you're working on your morning pages. Hope you're getting all of that organized. I've been working on mine. It's interesting what you learn when you sit down and allow your writing to just flow out of you. We've been working through a book called Write for Life by Julia Cameron, Creative Tools for Every Writer. And this week's chapter is going to be pretty interesting because it's talking about those same things, those moments when we feel like this, knowing that there's a story in us that we need to share, or maybe one that we've worked on, that we've written, and we participated in NaNoWriMo or any kind of writing group, and you've got something pretty much finished, and you're just sitting on it. Or you just can't seem to get everything organized, but you can do it. So we're going through this book, and I am talking this week about the chapter called Resist the Resistance. So if your day looks a little like this, or your week so far looks a little like this, or maybe you just woke up this morning and you're still feeling like this, that's okay. Grab your mug and let's talk about that. Because Julia addresses that in the book. What we encounter as writers, what we encounter as creatives when we're trying to endeavor to work on something or produce something, we come up against those obstacles, those things that are resistance that try to get in the way of what we're working on. It's gray and cold as usual, you know? And I think that's what my mug, it may not be gray, but it's sort of black and like a I don't know, it's like a ivory color maybe, sort of greenish, but it kind of looks like this, kind of feels like this, right? So if any of you are watching live and you can Google this, it doesn't say on the cup what this painting is, but if you find it while you're on this broadcast, please pop in the comments and let me know. 'Cause I need to know the name of this painting. There are days when we feel like this. There are days when we're trying to work on a project. It's just so we're going to be talking about resisting the resistance in chapter 4 of the book. And Julia lays it out so easily. This is a woman who's written over 55 books. She's written screenplays. She's written stage plays. She's written poetry. So she's seen it. Last week, we talked about trusting our process. And so now, hopefully, since we are in chapter 4 of the book, so we are in week 4, hopefully by now, if you've been working on this with me and you've been doing your morning pages, I'm noticing my morning pages have taken on a little bit of, I've gotten in there and I've been honest about my days, how I feel, getting irritated with people, having wonderful days. We had a 70-degree day here and I got to get outside and take my almost 2-mile walk, which for me, being able to walk after the month of January's medical fun, it was great. So I had some really high highs and I had some lows. And when it's gray and cloudy outside and rainy, it's easy to slip into this, right? Of course, it's easy to slip into my cup of coffee, always. But it's easy to slip into a funk when you're trying to make headway on something. Or if you've been working on this process with me, and we're in week 4, we have enough content now from our morning pages. And for me, I'm realizing things about myself as a writer. I'm realizing things that are my biggest obstacles. And I loved that this week she talked about that, about trusting the resistance. Your coffee cup is bright red. That's great. Oops, there you go. Your coffee cup is bright red. That's awesome, right? Doing things that help pull us out of that funk. So, Julia says in chapter 4, all writers encounter resistance at different points along the journey. The trick is to resist your own resistance. Those of you that are Star Trek fans, remember the Borg? Remember the Borg's job? The Borg's job was to assimilate everything into its own collective, and if you resisted, it would say resistance is futile. Is resistance really futile? And what is the purpose of resistance? You know, when we talk about planes that take off on the runway, and there's just enough resistance with the wind, and there's just enough lift that it lifts this thousands of pounds piece of metal up into the sky that transports people from one place to another. And we trust that resistance, right? So the trick is to resist your own resistance. So the first one she talks about is mood. Mood. Shall we sip? Mm. Mm-mm-mm. She said, I woke early, filled with energy. I found myself eager to write, and so I set my pen to the page. I want to write about treachery, the treachery of mood in writing. Mood colors our perceptions of the work at hand. You could be having a fantastic day and the weather be crappy outside and nothing bothers you, right? But give us another crappy day of weather where things are just not going right and your mood just sinks. So, mood colors our perceptions of the work at hand. A positive mood is a luxury, not a necessity. Long years of practice have taught us that good writing can happen on a bad day. Later is the time when we go back over our writing, not in the heat of creation, but in the cool light of assessment. Because she says, I have learned through practice that mood cannot be trusted. So we write. In the heat of creation, we write. And if those words feel angry or they feel fearful or they feel, I don't know, frustrated, or it's okay to have those words on the page. I've been getting by now. But what I've learned is that as I'm being honest on those pages, I'm working through some of those things that are big obstacles. She said, I have learned to set my mood aside and stop insisting that my work be perfect. Let me say that again. I have learned to set my mood aside and stop insisting that my work is perfect. Instead, I tell myself, it's not perfect, but it's good, and good can be improved. As my job as an editor, that is my goal, is to work with authors on their manuscripts and really tighten them up so that when they get it back, they're like, oh, this, but it wasn't that the writing was bad, is that the writing was good and could even be improved upon because I already had something good to start with. I can't help you if pieces are all over the place and we have nothing to work with, right? That's like going into an empty kitchen and say, let's make a meal. But it's better when you walk into a kitchen that is fully stocked, has all the utensils and everything together, because then you can pull things out of cabinets and grab plates and get some knives out and start chopping vegetables and get it right in seasonings and everything, and fire up the oven and the grill or the stove and create a fantastic meal. But you have to have those pieces together. Now, let's talk about a typical scenario, one that she calls U-turns. She says the spell of U-turns is very strong. Undoing a U-turn takes courage. So here's what a U-turn is. And you've probably had this happen to you. You've probably had it happen to you. A writer is working productively until something happens, and then that something that happens can be good or bad. Let's just say the writer shows the fledgling work to a creative monster who savages it. Discouraged, the writer does what we call a U turn and just stops writing. They're going along, and boom, oh, and they retreat. Or alternatively, let's say that the writer shows the fledgling work to a person who raves about its brilliance. Intimidated, freaked out about it, the writer does a U turn and stops writing. U turns, grounded in fear, are common to all careers, and they're very sneaky. They are powerfully negative. Sometimes the writer abandons a single piece of work. Sometimes the writer abandons the art form entirely. I know of people who worked on NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, this past November, worked on it. The goal is to write 50,000 words in a manuscript. I did not set that for me because I'm writing my little story, so did not do 50,000 words because I was also working on 2 book projects at the end of the year. No way I could do that. But I set myself a different goal. But for some, they have a 50,000 word manuscript and they did it and it's done. But it's just sitting there collecting dust because they experienced a U turn. Whew. And sometimes that can come from just sheer exhaustion after pouring so much time into that. Or you do these fits and spurts of writing where you sit down and you write and you just fry yourself. That's why Julia Cameron recommends daily morning pages. You get into the habit of writing and you write your daily quota and then you put it down. Many of us have multiple U turns, she said, thwarting our talent in many arenas. Often the writer fails to realize that a U turn is at hand. Doing this exercise, we may at first have amnesia. I had forgotten my short story U turn. Recalling it gave me the power to write stories again. So, take your pen in hand, moving an art form at a time, whether it's writing, whether it's, creating content for your, maybe you're a content creator for it's your company, or maybe you're just trying. Where did you do the U-turn? Where did you just stop? Did you ever do a U-turn in writing, in visual arts, in dance, movement? A category of time. Recall times in your life where you've experienced U-turns, and we all have. We all have done it. Back in my early days, you would not believe this, but I had a band. I sang. I was a lead singer of a band. Was trained musically as a child and sang and played piano and played guitar and played flute and sang in choral groups, on worship teams, on as background vocals on records. I sang. And then I experienced a U-turn. And I haven't sung a note in years. Why? What stopped me? What intimidated me? What made me put down that art? U-turns are powerful, but undoing them is even more powerful. So can you take some small steps to undo your U-turns? Could you do something today that just moves you past that, gets you back to the thing that you know you're supposed to be doing, that you love, that you want to do, and you just keep putting it on? Now, let's talk about anger. I told you that in my morning pages this past week, I had a couple of days where I wrote and I was angry. I was pissed off. Um, I don't want to get into the topic here, but it was just something that's kind of been a topic on the social media threads. And then sometimes, guys, I have to pull away. I have to pull away. I have to pull away. I have to close all the browsers and stop all the notifications because I can't. I can't. Those are things that draw me into that. So she says anger is energy. Remember what she said? Anxiety is energy? Well, so is anger. Anger is energy, and energy is fuel. Many of us fear our anger. We do not see anger for what it is, a tough love friend. Anger tells us when we've been betrayed by others or ourselves. We have crossed a boundary, and anger is the result. So feeling angry, we are able to tap into an inner resource. Words will come rushing to the forefront. Listen, how many people do you know have posted more than once an angry post on social media somewhere or a comment? Shoot, I've even done it. Just, you're having a bad day and you hit a thread and you see a comment and man, you just jump out there and say it. I had to apologize for one this week. Um, the medical mirth of January just fried me. And so I was a little testy, a little testy. Writing is an act of self cherishing. As we check in daily with ourselves, we give voice to our many hidden dreams and agendas. When we welcome our anger, we become articulate. Why am I furious? We may exclaim, caught by surprise, startled by the intensity of our feelings. I had to get back to what it was that was really upsetting me. And honestly, I discovered it was me. It was me being an old lady. You live long enough, you get irritated with folks. And it was just me not really thinking it through and opening up my mind to possibilities because I was in a state of fear. And that fear caused me to get angry, and that anger caused me to say things. Angry pushes us past our censor. When we express our anger, we are expressing our true feelings. And that's why we do it in our morning pages. We do it there. When we can see our feelings and our emotions right there on the page, speaking to us, we can then begin to tackle what is it behind that. Uncensored, we tell it like it is. It makes me furious that blank. We say, and we experience a rush of adrenaline. We are daring to tell the truth. As we write our authentic feelings, we experience a flow of words which spell out precisely the transgression we are experiencing. I hate it when we write, and as we do, we feel the reality of our emotions. We are moved to action. Hopefully, that action is positive, not negative. But it's okay. Listen, it's okay to feel those things. We know that. We tell children that. It's okay to be upset, but you can't poke him in the eye when he takes your Lego. I know you want the Lego and I know you want to play with it, but you can't just punch them because you want the Lego back, right? So we teach children how to feel those feelings, be honest about those feelings, and choose a better action. It seemed like all I was writing was because I was angry. You helped me rewire this by calling it venting. I've been on a different track ever since and I found a different voice. There's still anger, but it's taking a lower shelf. Yes, Bonnie, listen, because as Julia says in the book, once you do that, it moves you past that to look at the reality of what's behind it. You can vent all you want in your morning pages, but once you get past that obstacle, it helps you see clearly what's on the other side. And I'm so glad you're doing that. She says, as we write, we become known to ourselves, and increased tenderness to the self we are discovering is the reward. She talks about fear. You want to write freely, but fear marches alongside your train of thought. Our first thoughts are often precisely the right thought with which to begin. Our fear, after all, is damning us as we let it be. A nasty litany springs up to mind. In all likelihood, we are not these things, reason tells us. Our fear of judgment verges on paranoia. But what if I look foolish? But what if I'm forgot? What if I couldn't believe the fear that I had? The fear that I had, it made me realize this is why I'm saying these things and why I feel this way. Because I'm not allowing myself the possibility of opening up my mind to something beyond my initial feelings. Whew. Telling you guys, this was what I looked like that day. And it looks like that today outside. But I'm not feeling that way today. Because my morning pages help me move past that feeling, right? These things that cause us major resistance. As we boldly embrace our thoughts, we issue a dare. Disagree with me or discount me at your own risk. Fear tells us that we will be judged. Reason tells us that we will survive, that our most damning critics risk appearing foolish. Writing is the weapon which wins the day. Our daring to write, to trust our first and further thoughts, casts fear out, a bully that we stand up to. The only fear we have to fear is fear itself, she says, right? So we take a risk. We take a risk writing those daily pages because when we write how we really feel, that trains us to expand. When we write how we're really feeling, we start to look beyond those feelings to the real thing it is that we want or the real thing it is that we're trying to produce. Keep the drama on the page. And here's where I said, oh, guys, I had to pull away from drama. Listen, minimize, if you want to work on your writing, minimize your time on social media. It can really become a distraction and a time suck. Julia says, I have learned through hard knocks that indulging in extreme emotions leeches my writing power. Let me say that again. I have learned through hard knocks that indulging in extreme emotions leeches my writing of power. We have only so much emotional energy, and when we expend it foolishly, our work suffers. If you spend hours on social media and then you expect to do well in your job or really be creative for your writing, well, you have just expended all those emotions into something that sucks it out of you and does not bring anything back. And so, what do we go there for? We go there to check in with people. We go there to find out what's going on. We go to see how many likes or maybe comments we have, right? Because we get validation from that. Listen, when we place too much importance on social media beyond what we want to use it for, I love using it to connect with you here, to talk about these things that we discuss about writing, about the things we love. So drama can be internal and external, right? Guys, listen, right here. This is what it looks like, right? And yet, because Pollock put it on a canvas and captured it, so we could clearly look at it, probably dealing with his own inner stuff, and created an art piece and created an art style that was new of the time, that opened people up to this kind of art and appreciating this one kind of art. Because there's no way he could have recreated, he creates this and there's all kinds of things you can see in it. Can you see a face there? I see a face that looks like someone with their arms crossed, right? Looking stressed. I mean, you can see all kinds of things in the picture, depending on what you look at. And that's the beauty of his art. So drama can be internal or external, she says. And for the writer, both types are equally damaging. Self-generated drama may show itself as worry or generalized anxiety. But I have found that it is always better to put pen to page than to indulge. Always better to keep writing. Don't get sucked into the drama. Keep it on the page. When you keep your drama on the page, well, then you know how to write dramatic scenes later when your characters are in a tense situation and there's drama. You know how to write that. You have felt it and you've even written it in your morning pages. So now when it comes to putting it a story, you've already sort of processed it. So now you know how to create it. Imagine the TV shows that you watch or the books that you've read, the drama that is created by the writer, the feelings that the writer brings up in you on those pages when we're following a storyline or characters or suspense or thriller stories. I mean, have you read books that literally, oh, you shut the book because it scared you? Right? So that kind of drama, well, it's processed by the author in some way before they put it on the page. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Bonnie. Good juju. Exactly. So when you process that drama, when you do that drama on your daily writing in your morning pages, you're then able to move past it into something much better. Let's talk about deadlines. Remember earlier I said I've got a deadline tomorrow? I've got a manuscript that I'm getting back to the author. So I have a deadline tomorrow to get it to her. A deadline holds you accountable. Deadlines to some people are scary. I have deadlines all the time with book projects, especially when we're on a production timeline. There are deadlines. Deadlines hold you accountable, right? Think of the word deadline. Deadline. I mean, the line where we are finished, right? Deadlines assure you will finish in a timely fashion. Deadlines hold us accountable. Deadlines keep us from scattering all over the place, right? Deadlines keep us in line. Deadlines are my friend. Working as an editor, so let's see. Her name is Emma Lively, and she works with Julia. She said Emma Lively sums up her experience. Working as an editor, she divides the number of pages by the number of days she has remaining. This gives her a daily quota. Meeting her daily quota, she automatically meets her deadline. That's what I do when I'm working on a book project. I look at the length of how many words in the manuscript. I talk about the client to let them know what kind of editing they want done, and then how long that's going to take me to help work on that project. Sometimes it takes me a week, sometimes it takes me 2 weeks, right? So that helps me break it down where I can divide it up so that I can meet my deadlines, not be late on returning manuscripts. So Julia asks, how do you set your own timeline? First, you see your daily quota. What is your daily quota? Set your daily quota. How many pages per day can you actually write? I know how many pages per day I can edit. And when I'm working on a really intense project, like I'll be working all day into the evening and tomorrow on this project. Because it's an almost 200-page book. So how long does it take you to read a 200-page book? Right? Sometimes you can sit and read the whole thing, but you would have to sit for hours and do nothing but read. So you break that up over days when you want to read it, right? So break down, set your daily quota, remembering to set the bar low enough to be easily doable. Set yourself a tangible goal that you know you can complete. And if it's 1 page, make it 1 page. But do something, set the bar low enough where the goal is easily doable. Next, count the number of days it will take you to finish your project. I'm going to be writing. I'm going to try to publish. I would love to try to publish by my birthday, maybe Christmas, but it might be spring of next year. It might be a year from now. By the time I get because I have to write all the stories, and then I have to get it edited, and there's photos involved, and I'm doing 4-color printing, so that's a little bit more expensive than just black and white printing. So a lot of pieces to the puzzle beyond just writing my manuscript. So I've got to set a timeline and be flexible enough with that to make sure I have enough days in the calendar to complete my project and know when that is. Then she says, divide the days by your quota. Finally, go to your calendar and mark the date that you can reasonably expect to be done. I do this all the time with my clients. I have a spreadsheet, and when I ask them, when do you want to publish? And then it automatically backdates all the tasks so we know what our timeline is, what our deadlines are. And the word reasonable is important. If your goals and your deadlines are not reasonable, that's going to cause you resistance. That's going to cause unwanted stress that you don't need. So a lot of different things that can be. So a lot of these things I've been talking about are internal. Let's talk about the external resistance. Let's talk about crazy makers and toxic friends, because Julia addresses those in her book. Crazy makers create turbulence and chaos. Deadly for the creatives in their midst, enormously destructive. They may be charismatic, frequently charming, highly inventive, and powerfully persuasive. They turn those talents towards creating storm centers, disrupting the lives of those that they deal with. You see these people on social media all the time, the crazy makers. Unfortunately, we're starting to see that represented in our government. People who are just there to be a pain in the ass. They don't want to get anything done. They don't want to work with people. They just want to cause chaos. They thrive on it. They're crazy makers. Crazy makers thrive on drama, casting themselves as the stars, with everyone else as supporting players, picking up their cues from the crazy makers' crazy whims. So, the crazy makers are that destructive. Why are we involved with them? Are there people in your life that are like this? If so, you got to cut that out. If you want to be productive, you've got to cut these crazies out. Cut the crazy out of your life. If you're involved with a crazy maker, she said, or suspect that you yourself are one, it is important that you admit it. Are you even a crazy maker? Do you just like to start drama? Are you venting your anger out on social media? Or are you doing it in your morning pages? Right? I had, felt stupid for getting a little testy on a comment thread about a topic that was really, there were people on both sides and I wasn't being open enough to listen. That was my fault, right? It happens. If your crazy maker is using you, admit that yourself are being used by a crazy maker. It is a block you have chosen yourself. As much as you are being exploited, you are using your crazy maker to block your own creative flow. Don't be involved with this person and then blame it on them for why things aren't getting done. Choice is up to you. Toxic friends. You can have friends that are toxic that are like, well, why are you writing? Why do you think that's going to be any good? Are you really writing a book? Well, if I wrote a book, so it would be like that. So there are lots of books I'm writing. Oh, speaking of little friends, here comes my little friend. Hello, Miles. It's raining out there, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Oh, it is. So how can you get past that? How can you get past all these people, all these things? Well, you have to cut those things out of your life. And then Julia says, talks about affirmations. What are some positive things that you are promoting in your life? What are some things that you tell yourself? Remember, she talked about, am I being authentic? Am I being helpful? Am I being of service? Right? Morning pages urge us to be more honest, to take action where it is needed. And in the words of the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. If there are crazy makers in your life, do you know how to change so that you can be more honest and get rid of that in your life? What about those in your life that you love, that make your life fun, right? Have more of that in your life surrounding you, helping you feel loved and cherished. We sort our life into workable categories. At the page's urging, we face our demons, and when we do, we find we have room on the page and in our life for new and positive endeavors. Affirmations are positive statements of positive beliefs. So even though it's a cloudy day, even though it's rainy outside, how are we on the inside? Are we crabby? Do we hit the ground in the morning in a mood, in a funk? Or do we wake up every morning grateful for another opportunity to be alive and to experience all the good things that life can bring us today? A daily practice of affirmations is a powerful tool. The act of putting positive statements onto the page pries loose the stranglehold of despair. So when you're in your morning pages and you vent, you get all that stuff out, do you at the end of it see the positivity? I try to end every morning pages with something that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the fact that I can write, that I have the ability and the strength in my hand to write. I'm grateful that I can get up and go walk to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee. I'm grateful that I have my kitty to love on, who will sit in my lap and keep me company while I'm working on projects. I'm grateful for my family, for my husband, for this beautiful home that we live in, for my life after battling cancer. I'm glad to be on this side of it, right? And so I remind myself of all those great things because each day is going to bring its own resistance. right? Each day we are going to have trouble. We are going to have tribulations. We're going to have things that challenge us every day, from flat tires to broken faucets, um, to kinks in our back. And yet, all those things, we're going to find ourselves, if we push past all those things that are causing resistance and find the joy, find the thing that's on the other side. So, Julia has some tasks for this week, for this chapter that we have been going through. She talks about all of these things that we discussed. So, U turns. She said, list the following categories: music, theater, visual arts, public speaking, crafts, etc. All of those things in your life, maybe they're creative endeavors. Are you writing music? Are you writing a book? Are you writing poetry? Are you creating content? Right? All of those things. And then next to each one, note a U turn that you may have made. What happened? What was the resistance that you came up against that caused you to pause or to stop or to put it down and abandon it altogether? Now, after you do that, write down a small action that you can do towards reversing the U turn, towards getting back into that flow again, especially if it's something that you love and that you've missed, that you know you should be doing and that you kind of have put off. So choose an action and take that this week. See if you can't restart a U turn. On anger, she says number from 1 to 10 and list 10 angers. When you are finished, look through your list. Does it suggest an action that you can take? Can you use this energy of anger for a good cause? So when you say, "Oh, I'm angry about this. I'm angry about this. I'm angry," look at the list and see what are things that you can take a small step on to change that, or to smooth that out, or to make reparations. Right? See if you can do that, and use that energy for fuel to then move you towards action. Then toxic friends and crazy makers. We all have them in our lives, guys, at some point. And so here's what she says to do. Fill in the following. 3 crazy makers I have known or know are: the worst thing a crazy maker has done in my life is blank. And then I suspect that I was involved with this person because, and I have some of those. And sometimes some of these friendships go back a very long time. And those people played an important part in your life, but for now, your life is not maybe as involved, or maybe it's so involved that you just aren't on the same page. So, how do you change that? How do you fix that? Um, Also, put down a toxic friend in my life right now is blank. A way I could distance myself from this negativity is this. So, not saying you have to cut off the friendship, but maybe change your interactions. Limit those interactions, because right now you're in the middle of writing something, you're producing something, and you only have so much emotional power and time to give it. Naming all the things is brilliant. You can't use them for excuses anymore. Correct. Correct. So that's what I love about this. This is what you can do in your morning pages. Julia says, address these things. And then affirmations. Quickly list 3 fears in relation to your project. What are 3 major fears that you have about getting your project finished? Now, once you write those fears out, so I'm afraid of this, I don't think that. So once you write those out, now convert them into a positive. For example, she says, I'm afraid I will never finish my project. That's going to be the top on my list for my own project. And then she says that becomes, I easily and happily bring my project to its ideal completion. I am easily and happily bringing my project to its ideal completion. I know what my perfect completion date would be, but what is the ideal completion? Work with your affirmations by doing this and write them out in your morning pages. That's where we do our work. That's where we do our best work, right? So, chapter 4, make sure you grab a copy of Julia's book. Share it here on the screen with you again. Grab a copy of this awesome book. Write for Life, Creative Tools for Every Writer. We just completed the little summary discussion over chapter 4 called Resist the Resistance, and you're going to love next week. We've only got 2 more weeks in the book, and guys, we've been working through this for 6 weeks. We will have worked on this for 6 weeks. So now the question is going to be, where are you in the stage of your writing? Is there a project that you need to start on, or are you working on the project as you're going through this book? So the next chapter, you're going to love this. Work on your dealing with your resistance this week, because next week is dismantling your perfectionist. Ooh, ouch. Yeah, but that's for next week. Speaking of next week, the show is going to be on Thursday next week. I've had some things hit my calendar and things are not lining up to where I can do the show next week on Wednesday. So you're going to be joining me on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. Thursday morning, we're going to get together and talk about, because we need some time this week to deal with our resistance, resisting that resistance. So, so take the time, work on that this week. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments of this thread, or you can shoot me a message. But definitely work on that this week. Find those places of resistance for you and push past those. Work those out in your morning pages and see what it shows you. Okay. So next week, Thursday, we will be talking about dismantling our perfectionist. So something fun. Let's talk about some fun things. There's been some fun things, news that has come up in bookish things. You can always join me for our book club. We are reading the book Horse by Geraldine Brooks. It's told in 3 different timeline settings, overlapping. It's really cool. And it is a story based on the story of Lexington, the greatest racehorse that ever lived. And so this is a fabulous book. I love Geraldine Brooks' style of writing. I feel smarter once I read her chapters. So you can join me for our book club. Would love to have you. I'm going to put the contact information here where you can sign up if you'd like to join, or if you have any questions about writing, where you are in the process of your writing, pushing through any obstacles, or if you have any questions about what is the process like if I want to self-publish my book, or perhaps take my book to a literary agency to see if they'll pick it up and sell it to publishers. So you can do that. You can contact me right here at reneeharden.com/contact. You can let me know if you'd like to join the book club, if you've got any questions. You can book a 30-minute consultation with me where we can review where you are in the writing process and talk about your project if you have something like that you want to talk about. All right. So you can do that. You can join me here. Also, here's some things that were coming up that I'm super excited about. Julie Andrews is publishing another book. She has worked with her daughter writing children's books. And so as I was going through looking at books that are coming up, books that are being published, this one I'm excited about. This is the second in her series of books that she's doing with her daughter, Emma Walton, and it's called The Enchanted Symphony. This is her second book that she is working on with her daughter, and this is a collaboration that was inspired by an unusual musical performance in Spain. Julie Andrews and her daughter thought of the book and wrote it during the first year of the pandemic, when they learned of something called Concert for the Bioscene, in which a string quartet played in front of thousands of plants. each for one seated at Barcelona's Gran Teatre del Liceu. And so it was a concert for plants. So the Enchanted Symphony is a hopeful fairy tale set in a village beset by a mysterious fog, but revived by a boy's simple melody. She says, while the fog in our book invokes our pandemic experience, it also symbolizes something larger, the creeping and countless distractions that prevent us from appreciating what truly matters most in life. I thought that was fantastic, especially dealing with this chapter this week on trusting the resistance, those things, those distractions that get in the way of really helping us appreciate the great things in life and then writing about those stories. So, this book is coming out in September, September 23rd, I believe. So, you want to pre order it now, and then it'll come out this fall. Super excited about that. Another book that I found out about, and that there's not a book cover for it yet, but in November of this year, Barbara Streisand's memoir is coming out. I'm ecstatic. I'm just that's definitely going to be one. It's going to go up on this shelf. Up here on this top shelf right here that you see that I'm pointing to right here. These are all like if a fire happens in this house, I'm grabbing those books first. I would love to grab all of them, but definitely those. Some awesome memoirs or biographies of people that I have grown to admire and love in my life. And so that's going to be going. I'm going to make room on the shelf for that book. So Barbara Streisand's memoirs coming out in November of this year. Super excited about new. And something else that I came across. Let me see if I still have it on my phone because I just saw that this morning. Is that on Hulu coming March? Let me see. So, are you familiar with the show Peaky Blinders? My husband and I absolutely love that show. And so the creator of that series is creating an adaptation of Charles Dickens' literary masterpiece, Great Expectations. The six-part limited series will premiere on March 26th exclusively on Hulu and will feature the first two episodes on that date. Playing Miss Havisham will be the fabulous Olivia Colman. Oh, I can't wait. Guys, I'll be sharing the trailers for it here on my social media channels. You'll see it showing up, but I can't. So, literary masterpieces adapted into limited series. I love it. I absolutely love it, right? Taking classic old stories and putting a new spin on them. So, I'm looking forward to that. Knight serves as the writer who created Peaky Blinders and also executive producer alongside Tom Hardy, Ridley Scott, to name a few. So Great Expectations is produced in association with the BBC. The BBC has already released a teaser for the series. I will be sharing that with you here on social media. You'll see the channels, but great things are happening, great stories, and there's one in you. So remember, you gotta push past the resistance, guide. Resistance is not futile. It's the thing that is showing you areas we need to work on to push past those obstacles to get to the other side and find out what's really waiting for us, right? So, yeah. Listen, Bonnie, you're welcome. I appreciate it too. I'm doing it for me as well, and I'm working through this process and doing it myself. I wouldn't be honest with you if I wasn't doing it. So I'm going through this, and I am highlighting my book. Let me show you this week's. I paper clipped. I have sticky notes. I'm going through it myself, and I'm highlighting all of these points, making notes to myself, working through these exercises, right? See, marking notes of things that I need to read and pay attention to. Love that. when she leaves margin in the book for you to write things or make notes. So I'm doing it along with you guys because together we've got some amazing stories to tell, and I can't wait to read yours. So join me next Thursday where we will talk about dismantling our perfectionist. Ooh, I can't wait. Until then, get out there and make somebody's day today. You've made mine just by sitting here sharing coffee with me, taking the time to watch this broadcast. I'll see you back here next week. Have a great week. Do those morning pages. Can't wait to read your story. And I'll see you then. Take care.